These days, a whole lot of weed strains have wild, intense-sounding names. And most of the time, it's honestly just marketing. A tough-sounding name slapped onto seem cool and dangerous. But every now and then, a strain comes along with a name that has a genuinely crazy story behind it. A name that supposedly came from an actual, real-life disaster. This is the story of Trainwreck. So let's start with what this strain actually is, because the name is your first big clue. Trainwreck is a potent, heavily sativa-dominant hybrid, and it is famous for absolutely flooring you. It hits fast, and it hits really hard, with a powerful rush of energy and euphoria that comes on almost instantly, sometimes within just a couple of minutes. It's intensely cerebral, sparking creativity and a racy, buzzing, almost psychedelic head high, before it finally settles down into a mild, gentle body relaxation. Now, because it comes on so strong and so fast, it can honestly be a bit much for beginners, sometimes tipping over into anxiety if you overdo it. So it's really more of a strain for experienced smokers. And that intense, hits you like a freight train experience is a massive part of where the name actually comes from. It's a true daytime powerhouse. And it looks the part too. It grows dense, sticky, spear-shaped buds that are absolutely coated in a thick layer of frosty, crystal trichomes, the kind of flower that instantly tells you it means business. And the way it smells is just as memorable as the way it hits. Because Trainwreck has one of the most distinctive aromas in all of weed. It's this sharp, almost aggressive smell of fresh lemon and lime mixed with earthy pine, and then a cool, spicy menthol and eucalyptus note on top, almost like a strong lemon cleaning product, but in the best possible way. That whole unique scent comes from a rare terpene that most other weed strains barely have. And that sharp, one-of-a-kind smell it has is a big reason it stood out so much from everything else on the shelf. Now, as for how strong it is, I want to be honest with you, because the numbers are all over the place. Depending on who you ask, and which specific version of it you happen to get, Trainwreck's THC gets listed anywhere from the mid-teens all the way up into the low 20%. Older sources tend to list it lower, while modern lab-tested versions come in higher. So the real answer is that it's a very potent, hard-hitting strain, but any exact number you see attached to it should be taken as a rough ballpark and definitely not a hard promise. That strong, energetic effect is also a big reason it became so popular with medical patients out in California, who used it to help with things like pain, stress, and fatigue, all while staying functional during the day. But now, we get to the best part, the wild story behind that name. The legend goes that Trainwreck was born up in Northern California, in the legendary weed country of Humboldt County, sometime back in the late 1970s or early 80s. And the story is a dramatic one. The way it goes, two brothers were supposedly growing a secret crop on a hillside just outside a town called Arcata, when a train suddenly and violently derailed somewhere nearby. Terrified that the crash would bring police, firefighters, and emergency crews swarming all over the area and accidentally expose their secret illegal grow, they supposedly rushed out and harvested their entire crop way too early. And so they ended up naming the strain after the very disaster that forced their hand in the first place. Now that is a fantastic story. But this is where I have to be straight with you. Because that whole tale is really just folklore, and nobody can actually prove a single bit of it. And on top of all that, it's really only one of several completely different competing origin stories floating around out there. Some people insist the name has nothing to do with a real crash at all. Instead, they say the name really comes from the way that intense high slams into your brain like a runaway train. Others say it actually comes from the wild, messy, sprawling way the plant itself physically grows, which honestly ends up looking like a train wreck all on its own. There are even versions where seeds got scattered from an actual crashed train. And the confusion doesn't stop at just the name, because people can't even agree on when Trainwreck first appeared. A lot of the old-school Humboldt locals swear up and down that it's been around as a cutting all the way since the 1970s. But the single most trusted written account of the strain says it wasn't actually documented anywhere until right around the year 2000. So the honest truth here is that Trainwreck's real origin is a complete mystery. And you know what? That deep mystery is actually a huge part of its legend and its appeal. But there is one thing about its history that basically everyone does agree on. For most of its life, Trainwreck was not something you could ever just buy as a pack of seeds. It was what's called a clone-only strain, meaning it only ever existed as one single prized cutting that got passed very carefully by hand, from one trusted grower to the next, all throughout Humboldt. It quietly circulated under names like Arcata Trainwreck, and even a mysterious little code name, E32. And that code name supposedly came from a big batch of seedlings, where the 32nd plant in the group, handpicked by a grower known only as E, turned out to be the one special keeper. And that whole secretive hand-to-hand history is the exact reason its true origins ended up being so incredibly murky in the first place. So with all that mystery cleared up as best we can, let's talk about what's actually inside it. The genetics that everyone points to are a three-way mix of classic, old-school landrace strains. You've got a Mexican sativa, a Thai sativa, and an Afghani indica. And honestly, you can clearly see each one of those three parents show up in the final plant. The two sativas, the Mexican and the Thai, are what give Trainwreck that towering, lanky, stretchy growth, and that soaring, racy, almost psychedelic head high everybody talks about. And the Afghani indica is what brings in the thick resin, the dense frosty buds, and a much faster finish, taming those two wild, unruly sativas just enough to actually be manageable. And I'll be honest about these genetics too, because they're not totally certain either. Nobody can actually prove that exact recipe, and it fits the whole theme of this strain perfectly. Because some of the old-timers say Trainwreck wasn't really some careful, planned-out cross at all. They say it was really more of a happy accident, a literal train wreck of random genetics that just happened to get thrown together and somehow produce something truly amazing. So even the family tree has a little bit of that signature chaos baked right into it. So how exactly did this mysterious strain take over the entire West Coast? Well, Trainwreck absolutely exploded in popularity right as California's medical marijuana scene was taking off in the mid-1990s. And the timing was perfect, because back then, dispensary shelves were mostly dominated by heavy, sleepy, knock-you-out kush and indica strains. So a potent, energetic, wildly aromatic daytime sativa like Trainwreck stood out on those shelves almost immediately. It quickly became the go-to daytime strain for a lot of people, the benchmark that pretty much every other sativa started getting measured up against. And from there, it spread like wildfire. It steadily moved out of Humboldt and became a staple all across California and the entire West Coast. Now, I'll be fair with you, saying it completely took over is a little poetic. It wasn't literally the only strain out there, and it shared the spotlight with other legends like Blue Dream and OG Kush. But for an entire generation of California growers and medical patients, Trainwreck was the reference sativa, the gold standard one that basically everybody knew. And it held its spot on dispensary menus for decades. But honestly, Trainwreck's single biggest impact might just be its family tree, because it went on to become a hugely popular and incredibly influential parent strain. Its powerful genetics got crossed into all sorts of famous weed that came after it. Most famously of all, Trainwreck is one of the direct parents of Pineapple Express, the strain that became so popular it eventually got its very own Hollywood movie. And it's also the genetic backbone of other well-known strains out there, like Candy Kush and Purple Trainwreck. So even in places where the Trainwreck name itself started to slowly fade away over the years, Its powerful DNA just kept right on spreading through all of its many descendants. So at the end of the day, Trainwreck is a true California legend, a strain named after a disaster that nobody can even prove ever happened. It hit like a freight train, it smelled like nothing else on the shelf, and it helped define exactly what potent West Coast weed was all about. And its real story lives on more in myth and in its descendants than in any provable fact. And that just goes to show, some of the greatest strains of all time don't come with a clean birth certificate. Instead, they come with a legend all their own.